What the heck is the metaverse? Everybody's talking about it, and it's supposed to usher in a brand new world. But what is it really? And who's building it? Hang tight, because we're about to talk to someone doing just that. Welcome to another FUTRtech video podcast. Today we have back Adam Voss from Surreal, and they are one of the leaders in the metaverse space. They are working with Unreal Engine and Epic Games to build out this virtual world. And today we are going to find out just where things are at and when we can get to the Oasis. Welcome, Adam.
I'm so excited to be back with FUTRtech. You guys are doing some great work.
So what the hell is this metaverse? We keep hearing, this Zuckerberg character running around and talking about it, being the future and all. Could you tell us what the heck it is?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't want to suffer any recapitulation because so many people are talking about where it started and its dystopian origins in science fiction. But as a real brief recap, the first time the word was actually ever used, it was coined by the writer Neal Stephenson in a book called Snow Crash, and this is a 1992 novel. And then it was kind of reimagined in the Ernest Cline novel Ready Player One as the Oasis, a fully established digital world that's very akin to the video game kind of worlds that we are creating today. And game creators have been creating for quite a while. But I mean, to coin my boss, our CEO at Surreal, defining the metaverse is like defining a dream. I mean, right now, in simplest terms, it's a fully connected three-dimensional visualization of the internet. And like you said, Mark Zuckerberg kind of made his announcement that his strategy going forward was to build a metaverse of connected social apps and hardware to support, the apps. And so, my vision of the Oasis, or reading Snow Crash, to Mark Zuckerberg's social media approach to connecting apps and hardware, these are just different things to visualize. So it's all over the place. Right now, using the word metaverse in a sentence, it'll get you some points on LinkedIn, for sure.
Yes. And so explain, because I think for a lot of people of a certain age, when they hear the metaverse, they just go, is this Second Life 2.0? Second Life?
Yeah, I mean, I have to give credit where credit is due. I think Second Life, it created a community long before the metaverse created, the kind of the buzz it has right now. And to be honest, no one really knows what the metaverse could be, because it is going to be, built on a consortium, on a collaborative approach to, what it could be. Truly, Second Life was a place for people to meet and interact, and then they built in a bunch of transaction components, and it's been there, since the 90s, since it emerged.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a metaversal, a metaversal visualization could take you down to Second Life, but it's, again, the ... Who knows what it will eventually be? I think we are at the precipice of what the internet was when it was first being coded, and people didn't know what it would look like, what the UI would be, what the access portal would be like.
Yeah.
So it's kind of exciting because you can determine what it will be by making something that I think, fans resonate to or with.
I mean, if I look at sort of the history of all this stuff, I feel like we're driving towards a singularity in some regards, right? Because, we did have, Second Life, and we had sort of these science fiction, conversations about, the metaverse and Oasis and things like that. But in some small ways, I mean, we've kind of been building the metaverse in in our games and things like that too. Because like my kids, they play, all of their games, and they're constantly on Discord and talking, and they're interacting virtually with each other. And I think, like everything, like the origins of everything on the internet either come from porn or gaming, right? At some level. And so like, here we are, gaming again, I think is kind of driving where we're going next in some ways, right? And I think, that certainly holds true with some of the things you're doing, because you're built on Unreal Engine, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. The pandemic accelerated and amplified the growth of the metaverse by at least 5 years, if not more. A place where people could have community, where they could come together. I mean, my kids are the same way. You jump on Discord, you get into a server, you get into a game. You're sharing those experiences because it's the only way to share it in that kind of environment. I mean, you typically wouldn't go over to a buddy's place to play a game, if you could do it with 10 other people all over the world. So that, in that same sense, I mean, Surreal, our kind of metaversal entry point, was looking at what gaming is doing from a social first perspective, and what the folks at Epic have done with just world-class art and interaction, and then incorporating that into non-traditional gaming vehicles, be it, we started in B2B events, and then we realized, well, fans build brands, and if you can approach somebody that really loves what you're doing, and you have a brand attached to it, well, that's going to build more business for the brand. So, then we started thinking, okay, well, it's a longer term activation. The engagement is better, and then you can transact. Most people, in B2B events, there's not really a transactional portal or an API to Spotify or Shopify, I should say, because you're at a conference. But with brand activation, then you can take all of their IP and all of the fans and all of the engagements that are so critical to that brand, and you could create a completely new channel. So that's what we've been doing. That's kind of been since we really officially launched in March of 2021. That was kind of our big bang. And now, we're finishing up, an initial fundraising round, so that we can take everything that we've learned to help creators, be it, brands or agencies or individual makers, create their own metaversal world / experience, whatever that's going to be for them.
When I talk to people about Surreal, I think people misunderstand what you guys do, because I think
it's in the name.
It's in the name, but actually, that in some regards, I think the name is what makes it confusing a little bit, because you talk about Surreal events, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when we all came out of this pandemic lockdown, the thing that was missing was all those trade show events got crushed. And you guys are coming from Echelon, a company that's supported trade shows and things like that. So the mindset, I think for a lot of people coming into this post-pandemic and post-pandemic world, hopefully, is that we're just kind of replacing the trade show, right? But that's not where you guys are at. I mean, you guys have moved well beyond that. And I think, when you talk about like you're raising money and all the other companies that are sort of out there, the Zooms of the world and the WebExes of the world, that's not what you guys are. That's what you intend to do. You've got a much broader, bigger vision of what it can be, and it's we talk about the rise of experiential retail, right? Yeah. And that in order for brick and mortar retail to survive, they've got to kind of have this experiential piece. But in a way, it's no different online. I mean, people are looking for this bigger experience. Right, and you can deliver something that's more in service of fans than it is necessarily of just casual shoppers, I guess.
It's funny that you mentioned retail. I mean, I cut my teeth doing retail marketing for Accenture years ago, and it's that the migration from brick and mortar to e-commerce, just based on convenience and the growth and domination factor of Amazon, has been growing for years. So we've been moving that way already. But again, the consumer is in command now. I mean, the consumer has the need for immediacy, 1,000% satisfaction, and to have their minds blown. Like, if you can't be on the front edge of wow, you're going to lose out to somebody else, because really, we are merciless in our anonymity on social media to tell companies that they should go F themselves because we don't care about their thing anymore. There's loyalty is gone. So, with 4 generations of workers in the workforce, you're looking at a broad swath from, your youngest kid, Chris, to, my dad. And it's like, you're going a huge generational leap. So creating something for everyone is a difficult proposition anywhere. But, for us, like, the thought was, okay, we're producers, we're marketers, we're makers. We started with Echelon Design, Midwestern company, in the trade show industry for 30, plus years, 35 years. And we used that as our pivot, back in March of 2020. But that we realized really quick that that's not sustainable. I mean, there's a lot of issues with our earlier model. I mean, one, art is a log jam. So, like, you think about a video game, it's like amazing exploration of art. Well, that takes a lot of time in the engine to create and optimize and light, and then you have to think, pixel streaming, what we're doing, which is, our solution does not require an app to download. It's streamed directly to your browser. Well, pixel streaming is expensive. The servers that we use, all our GPUs are, all for cloud rendering within our platform, and the servers take, it's 1-to-1. So it takes an amazing amount of time and money to create this thing. And then lastly, cloud infrastructure isn't really readily available to support mass adoption at this point. So we are trying right now, just like everyone with the birth of the metaverse, to get enough engagement where people are excited about it. Again, it reminds me of the beginning of the internet, where people were talking about the internet. They're like, what the hell is the internet? This thing is nothing.
Nobody will buy anything on that internet. Nobody's going to use that.
No, but I mean, now we'd be doomed without it, and we're doomed because of it too. So.
Yes, quite true. In so many levels.
So many levels.
But I think it's and I do want to get to what the potential for this is, because I think when we talk about this, it is a huge potential. But I think the other piece of that is that this is going to be built, right? Yep. And like the Oasis, and the one creator who kind of ruled the whole world because he was the creator of the Oasis in Ready Player One. Mm-hmm. This is kind of that moment, right? Like, who's going to control? What is this world going to look like? These are the underlying foundations of what that metaverse is going to be someday, right? And I think in some regards, it's going to be a little bit of a land grab. One, in just like who's going to be building that underlying platform. And, I think Epic's, got a big head start in terms of a gaming engine with Unreal, and you guys utilizing that Unreal engine to, sort of to build this. But then also, like, what brands are going to stake their claim first? This is like the New West expansion, and who's going to be squatting in this space and establish a presence and create that experience that's going to really drive people to them.
Well, it's funny, when we were kind of just charting out the unknown and looking at the verticals that we could serve initially, it was like, okay, we could do conferences and trade shows, we could do virtual headquarters and e-learning, we could do, kind of what was traditionally on-site brick and mortar training, we could take that in, concerts, retail environments, all of the things that, you've just named. But I think, one thing that we've been doing a lot right now, and I can't really talk about it because we're under NDAs with all these projects, but we've been working with major sports leagues now. And if you think about gaming as early, adopters, you've got the one-to-one with esports, and you've got sports and esports kind of converging, and a lot of people that are heavily involved in the consumption of sports content are also gamers. So for us, we're finding, okay, if they're already gaming and there is a playability factor where you need to come in, to embrace Surreal at this point, or any of the things we're building for, you've got to have a base level of fearlessness to get in it. So like, I'm not going to send my mom the URL for, an engagement that we're doing and saying, Mom, log in. It's super easy. You can create your avatar and you can customize it, and then you can enter the event, and it's WASD or arrow keys to navigate. And like,
I like to refer to that as sad W. Sad W.
Sad W. Already she's like confused, and she's like, well, Jeopardy's going to be on soon, so I don't, what time? But you say that say it to your daughter, Chris, who's a teenager, any 16, 17, 18-year-old, it is amazing. They know it instantly. And so again, that would be kind of my first tier. Retail as well, because there's so many hip retailers that are basically e-com only now. Then music, of course. I mean, between Travis Scott and Ariana Grande, both successful concerts. Ariana Grande was like 6 months and $50 million. So, there is total interest in doing this, and there's money to do this, and they're making money in return on the platform.
Yeah, and we've seen some concerts in platforms like Roblox and Minecraft, which are not particularly well suited to that sort of thing, but they've been, even in those kind of contexts, they've been tremendously successful.
Oh yeah, Roblox did a Vans activation recently, and it was just like amazing. And again, it's almost like I went to Funko for the show that we had called 12 for 12, and we did an episode on Funko, and Funko licenses more IP than any other company in the world, and that's the basis of their business model. So it's like, well, if you bring any IP to life in a platform, be it like it's a Funko Pop toy, or it's a kind of video game-esque approach to their brand, it's a win, because you're already going to have fan engagement from that built-in anticipation, like, wow, what is it going to be?
Yeah.
So, back to your question, I don't think any single company is meant to own the metaverse or even purport to know what it's going to be right now. I just think it's this, at this point, it's kind of this like, techno optimistic, hyper trendy, like, vision for the future. And I hope I hope we can create a more playable internet. And I hope that eventually it also leads to more of a haptic, kind of sensory experience that's not looking through the screen that we're looking through right now, but actually you can go in it. That's, I think, why the AR and VR guys that are working on this, and gals, are and non-binary, are doing lots of like really cool stuff to bring that to the fore.
Or Neuralinks, right?
Or Neuralinks. Eventually the Borg is going to land here on Earth.
I feel like, like when I put on 3D goggles, like the VR headsets, and like I feel like the Neuralink may be closer to not making me nauseous than those are sometimes.
The next thing Surreal's creating was, we have like really small nanobites. You actually can't see them. They're in this jar, but just put a couple of those in your coffee and you're plugged in. So
I can get those in the vaccine, right?
Yes. It's 5G at the edge. Really.
5G at the edge.
Yeah.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit, like, we've talked about, doing sports and that. Like, what does a sporting event look like in Surreal? What is that?
It's really interesting that you're asking me about, like, what is a sporting event look like, because anything in the metaverse is is still going to be dictated by programming, by promotion, by interaction. So I think of like what we've built as like the equation of art plus interaction plus transaction equals participation. And really, you know, if you don't have your fans playing, participating, they're going to go in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then they're gone. And just like shopping cart abandonment in e-commerce, that is a real result of not having things programmed. So there's some basic things like verisimilitude things that we talk about, like, you know, being able to move your avatar to a chair or a couch or a lounge, sit down and open a video chat with somebody else who sits next to you. Voice to voice too, if you don't want to actually see, you know, open up a video screen, but you can have a conversation with somebody you're running through the game with. Same things that's happening right now when my son, you know, plays Grand Theft Auto or whatever he's playing. And then, you know, you've got a little bit more with regards to, you know, exit through the gift shop, being able to dress your avatar in a certain, you know, clothing that you want to buy. So say you could go to the Metaversal Gap, or you can go to the Metaversal Banana Republic and put on your gear, and then you can actually drop it in a cart and check out with it. Same with food, you know, ordering food, having it delivered. I mean, really anything that you can do in the metaverse, you can create kind of a bionic dimension here in the real world. But all of that is to say that's not enough. Like you need to have experiences for participants to play. Like there's got to be achievements. Like you've got to be able to collect things. You've got to be able to find things. There has to be a what is the point? Is it searching for Easter eggs, or is it going to center field and having this meet and greet with your absolute hero at that team? You know, Cameo is a great example of that. You know, Cameo grew as a company, and if you don't know it, go check it out. But you know, they basically just created another channel for, I won't say washed up celebrities because that's rude, but for people that wanted to use their celebrity to monetize in a convenient way for them. So, you know, celebrities can create videos and they're personalized for, for their fans, and the fans pay anywhere from $300 to, $1,000 to get these 60-second clips.
Like $15 to.
Yes, that would be, mine would be like, I pay you $15. And here's, but yeah, I mean, like you have to think about programming. What are they there for? What is the thing? And then I think the other thing is, because we're still new, the more it's connected to other places for them to explore, the more they're going to explore. The United States has so much device love. We've gotten so much dopamine from the dings and the dongs and the hits when we know that something's happening. So they've got to get that in your platform, whatever your metaversal experience is. You've got to engage people one-to-one in a way that really excites them, entices them, that they can climb in the thing, they can drive the car, they can fly the plane. It has to be a game that isn't a game, that you're like, you're deftly kind of massaging people to try and play, and that it's real. There are other people in that interaction with you. It's not like you're just playing some bot, some sim. I think that's the thing. And so that's kind of what we're working on right now. I think it goes back to, just figuring out what your what is.
It really is, that Oasis kind of experience. It can be just about anything. And I think the thing that is really interesting is like when you open it up as a platform, right? Like what you guys are kind of getting going here. People can bring their own portion of that world to the environment. You can interact across all those little, microcosms, and you can travel from one world to the next, and you create a bigger universe of all these experiential things that aren't bounded by reality. Right?
That's right.
That's the cool thing. I mean, nothing has to be bounded by reality. I mean, if you want to have, all sorts of additional information, or you want to have weird monster avatars or whatever you want to do. It's all possible within the framework of like what somebody can imagine, which is really an interesting piece of it.
Yeah, I think, that's a really great point, Chris, because it's, a lot of people think, okay, the metaverse can be this one-to-one virtual or digital twin of a real environment. But why limit it to that? Why not have a dragon swoop down and pick you up and take you to the next portal? Or, why not incorporate some of that surreal imagination? Because, it brings it to life in a totally different way. And to me, that's why I think, gaming as a platform is such a nuanced way to approach, what could be a channel for, e-commerce, or a channel for, concerts or theater, or, museums, engagements that like really make you think, wow, this is crazy. I don't know if you guys saw the Van Gogh installation that was coming around. I mean, something like that, where it's an immersive 3D experience that puts you like in that kind of wow, like this is amazing. And that's kind of what we're trying to do for the clients that we're building these metaversal worlds for.
Well, and you mentioned e-commerce. I mean, e-commerce has been going on in games for a long time. I mean, from everything from just ad placement and product placement in games, right? And you mentioned earlier just like going to the virtual Gap and buying clothes and that sort of thing. But like my son, he plays Roblox, and one of the things he loves to do is he makes shirts for people to wear in the game, and he sells them in his store to get Robux to do other things. And the thing that's interesting, I mean, there's been so much, way too much in my opinion, conversation about NFTs, for example,
yeah.
right? And here's actually a legitimate use for an NFT. If you buy this item in a virtual world and you take it to another virtual world, it's a way of maintaining ownership across worlds, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we did for Red Bull and Sony PlayStation, we did a capture point gallery that was like a Guggenheim experience, where you could take the shots that you took as a player in specific PlayStation games, and you could put them, you submit them basically, because it's a one click. You take the shot and submit it. And then if it was selected, it would go in this gallery. And it's, again, think about that level of engagement. You love your game. You're at this great moment where you're about to, slay the dragon or whatever you're going to do. I use dragon metaphors a lot, but then, you're able to click it, and it's a killer shot. And then all of a sudden, all the fans of that game can go into this gallery and see it. And, again, it's great for the brands because they're activating, but it's also great because it's a place for the fans of these games, the players, to go and be a part of it. And like that could be an NFT, and that could be something that, could live in a metaversal gallery. And this is something I think with the NFT craze right now, it's one thing to own one NFT, but how do you show it, display it, trade it, sell it? There's certain,
use it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with cryptocurrency. I mean, like crypto has had a lot of fast followers, but unless you have engagement where people are, buying and selling and transacting, it's, it takes some time.
Well, it's good to be at the top of that pyramid.
It is. It is. But again, everything is only as good as your last transaction, as your last, your last participant. It's like anything, if you're not, if people decide, Beanie Babies are out, then the kind of the inertia dies, and the whole market kind of, until it has a resurgence, 20 years later.
Well, I mean, all things that we transact with are fictional at the end of the day. I mean, they have value because we collectively believe they have value, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm a fellow social constructionist. I mean, I think everything that we have done has been a compact between us to agree on certain terms. That's why, I don't know, the last few years have been so crazy, because when there's, anti-truth or anti-fact or alternate fact, life becomes surreal. What can you say?
Yeah, it's too bad that Surreal experience isn't online. Or maybe it is.
It is.
Maybe it is.
It's everywhere, really.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
I've heard a couple of rumors about Metaverse, and I was hoping that Adam, you could either dispel them or concur that these are in fact true rumors. The first rumor I heard is you need to smoke marijuana in order to truly understand the Metaverse concept and really get all the value of being inside of a Metaverse. Now, is that in fact true?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
You can also eat it. I think as a marketing guy at heart, like the Metaverse is
It's like just like a Grateful Dead show.
It's like a Grateful Dead show. Yes, it's the distended jam that lasts your entire life, and then you realize you wake up and you're still listening. No, I think the Metaverse is a channel. I think it's also an environment. It's also, it's whatever you agree it's going to be, whatever the construction is. So, yeah, you have to be a little philosophical at this point without like, hey, go to this thing, metaverse.com, and there's the Metaverse, or go to the Oasis.
Right.
The thing that we want to do is create, this bridge that connects all of these metaversal experiences. So you can travel with your Fortnite avatar and all of your achievements and your backpack of things and your profile and all of the things, and you can go from one experience to the next. The way Discord is set up, you can jump from one server to the next.
I was just actually kidding about that question, but you answered it fantastically.
I know you were.
No, because
but you sent me a drug test before this podcast, and I felt bad because I didn't submit it, because sending urine these days.
I think we know the answer.
No, I just think it's funny because like when I talk to people, it is a concept. When I find myself even talking about it and listening to you guys talk about it, it kind of seems like this trippy kind of like very I don't know, like not real life. It seems like fantasy land, right? It seems like, is this really real? Like, like the way you guys are talking, it makes it seem like you have to separate yourself a little bit from reality in order to really conceptually understand what the Metaverse really truly is. Like even for me, what I'm trying to figure out, like the question I wrote down for me was, I understand when you said the third, fully connected third world on the internet, or 3D world on the internet. But does that mean that ultimately you wear like those like Oculus type of VR goggles too, and then you could use the internet to ultimately get to a place? So like, is there going to be a connection between those devices and then the internet and the whole experience?
Yeah,
or is that just a dumb question?
No, it's not a dumb question. I think that's where Ernest Cline took us, to that.
Well, and that's what Mark Zuckerberg's vision of the Metaverse is intertwined with the Oculus technologies and the things that they're producing on that front. And they've got this new Facebook, glasses that they're coming out with too, which will be interesting.
Well, that's why. Even like Chris, your joke about neural implants. I can see at some point that you connect. Think about the cloud right now, right? So there's so much information and data going into the cloud, and we can't get there fast enough. We can't input or upload or download fast enough. And if all of this is inside of us as human beings, like we figure out some neural net connection, then you wouldn't need a VR headset. You wouldn't need all the interface technology, the hardware that we have right now. you also mentioned, Chris, Second Life as like kind of an early adopter contributor to where we are now. Well, it's like I think of the way we used our marketing materials and described the metaverse as like kind of a second screen experience. Well, I think at some point the screen is going to fade away. That the connection has to the screen right now. This is a middleman or a middle person between us and at some point, I think because of the seamlessness, because of our immediacy, because we're human beings, we're going to want to have instant. We're in. More like Tron. You're just in there. The Matrix. You're in there. I mean, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like, we're standing at the precipice of the post-humanist world, right? And, already we are there because I think when you talk about, I mean, I have an iPhone in my pocket that has access to, the world's knowledge in my hand. I don't know how to get to anything anymore. I don't know anybody's actual phone numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of stuff because I just rely on a device that's external to my body. But in some ways, even to the extent that I have phantom ringing vibrations in my pocket when my phone isn't there, right? I mean, I have integrated this device into my world, and it's just going to continue and continue and continue. And it seems like the neural links may solve problems more easily than some of the physical world challenges that we have to solve to make all this work, right? Who knows what's at the end of the day is going to be the easiest path to travel, right?
Yeah, that's why they close the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays so you can have human interaction, Chris. I mean, I definitely think it is interesting this kind of, again, now you're looking, I think, a little further into the future, but this this human versus synthetic or cybernetic augmented. Yeah, I don't think we can. First and foremost, the hybrid approach to events, experiences, environments, is here to stay. But I don't think one will ever replace the other. I mean, I don't know how. In Klein's book, it's like touch, like tactility and awareness of all of that stuff. I don't know how you replicate it without tapping directly into the brain or having like a sensor suit on with hundreds of thousands of sensors. What would it do to the sensitive areas? I chafe.
It seems very sweaty, very sweaty. We need a lot of powder.
I would want to get a digital rash, if you know what I mean. And I don't know. I mean, but what I do know is it's amazing that just like the internet, the metaverse is opening a different pathway forward, and there's a different bridge to build, or there's a different way to go that we never even envisioned before, and that people are starting to put money, into it, and people are starting to think, wow, okay, this is something I want to try. And if this metaversal experience, or experiment fails, I think we'll be better for it because, we're figuring out kind of, the way to connect as humans when, physics don't allow us, be it, a pandemic or, be it carbon footprint or.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing I think, we talk about like all the restrictions on us that have caused us to have, these things, but one thing that's come out of the pandemic that I think is really amazing is that we've come into this concept that people far away can be part of our lives,
yes,
in a regular way, and that's a thing that's very different because now we've got all these remote workers, they're bringing, like people can hire, they don't have to hire people in their town, they can hire people on the other side of the planet, right?
Exactly.
And that's huge.
Yep, the metaverse is a multiplier effect. I mean, it's amplifying the need to be close. I'm sitting at a desk in Portland. You guys are in Chicago. But we're here. We're having this conversation. We feel close. And again, that's that verisimilitude when you forget that you're alone, because you're not alone. And when there's three-dimensionality, when you're actually, an avatar and you're running, and I can still see your face, but we can move together, we can dance together, we can emote together. All of that stuff is an important component. It's something that we haven't had before. Gamers have had it. They've known it. This pivot for us was really predicated on having, teenage kids in our lives that we see and say, these guys are surviving a really grim time in history through this technology. And meanwhile, Epic Games has, really built this engine and this marketplace for this engine. And then other creators are jumping on board and creating really, really cool experiences for customers and for, fans, like Manticore, Core is like the YouTube for game development. I mean, how amazing. I don't need to know, any C++ coding, and I can go in there and I can create a game that maybe my mom would know how to play, after Jeopardy. So that's called a callback.
Yeah. That was good. I like the way you brought it all the way back around like that. That's why you're the pro.
Oh, I wish.
Well, I will say I think that there's going to be a battle for the soul of all this at some point, and it's probably starting right now, right? Because there's going to be so many competing interests that are going to want to have a stake of this, control of certain aspects of it, and I think now's the time to get in and help define how this is going to go,
I think
now
this
or
is
never,
going to be
man.
huge for the cannabis market. Huge.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We've
man,
lost. I don't know what happened to Sandesh, man, but some
I mean, honestly,
something's going on over there.
It is kind of a funny thing you say, but I'm sure it will be. I can imagine the cannabis industry, creating smoking lounges or creating places for their players or their fans.
Well, you can't do it in public or in bars in most places in the country now. Anyways, you have to do it kind of from the comfort of your home. So there you go. That's why, to create that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately they can go inside of the metaverse to even go to walk into a dispensary or get some product or whatever that interests them and put it into their cart and buy it. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and if you get that Neuralink, you don't even need cannabis. You just like whoa, that was wild. Before we let you go, though, you got to go and chase this one down. You got to have the Matrix opening in the metaverse.
So it's so funny that you said that, because we've been talking about, the Matrix Resurrection film is coming out in December, and it's like, why aren't we doing a metaversal activation?
Must.
So
well, the Wachowskis are here in Chicago, so I don't think they got a studio here. I don't know if they still live here, but
yeah, and I would love to. I've been taking blue and red pills to try to tap into them, but
just to level yourself out.
Just to level myself out from all of the marijuana that you were programming into my earbuds right now.
I think they still have a studio over in Andersonville, so I'll go stand outside with a sign and just wave it like this.
I love it, and then I'll take a picture and put it in our capture point gallery.
Yes, and I'll get paid for very expensive NFT.
That's right.
That's my ticket out of here.
That concludes this episode of FUTRtech.
Later, suckers. I'm out.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm gonna do my own
this is the
wrap
best
up
one
now.
yet.
Well, no, but I will say, like Sandesh and I have, been advising you guys, along the way and watching you grow, and it's been a really interesting journey. And thanks for including us in that journey, because it was cool to watch the evolution of this. And thanks so much, Adam, for joining. As you know, you're slowly becoming a regular on the podcast. So
I love it. And honestly, I tell everybody about your podcast. I think you two, honestly, are kind of like, the Laurel and Hardy of the tech podcast industry. I won't tell you which is which, but I love it. So thank you guys for having me.
Wow, the Laurel and Hardy of the tech podcast industry.
Exactly what we were going for, by the way.
High praise. Well, thanks so much, Adam. As
Thanks,
always,
Adam.
Much appreciated.
Talk to you guys later.
Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And if you like what you saw, please give us a like and think about subscribing. And I will see you in the next video.